Try this quick mental challenge. Watch this number sequence, 47193882. Now close your eyes and repeat it back. Struggling? That's because your conscious mind can only handle about 7 pieces of information at once. Meanwhile, your unconscious mind processes millions of data points, from body position to social cues to childhood memories. This dramatic disparity reveals why you make the choices you do, why your memories aren't reliable, and how you can access the hidden power within your mind. Today, I'm pulling back the curtain on the operating system that's running your life without your permission. The invisible architect of your reality. Have you ever made a decision that felt right, but couldn't explain why? Your unconscious mind was already hard at work, processing information long before your conscious awareness caught up. That gut feeling when you meet someone new, the inexplicable urge to take a different route home, or the sudden solution to a problem that appears while you're in the shower. These aren't random occurrences. They're glimpses of a vast, hidden system operating beneath your awareness. Beneath the surface of your conscious thoughts lies an extraordinary architect, silently designing your reality moment by moment. This hidden force shapes how you perceive the world, influences your emotions, and determines many of your decisions before you're aware of them. Most of us go through our entire lives completely unaware of its profound influence over virtually everything we think, feel, and do. We tend to believe we're in conscious control of our lives, that our deliberate thoughts and intentions guide our actions. The truth is far more complex and, in many ways, unsettling. Your conscious mind, the part you identify as you, is merely the visible tip of an immense cognitive iceberg. Beneath the surface lies the vast majority of your brain's activity, operating in regions and through processes that never reach your awareness. Consider what's happening right now as you watch this video. Your unconscious mind is continuously monitoring your posture, adjusting muscles to maintain balance. It's registering the temperature of the room, the pressure of your clothing against your skin, background noises, and countless other sensory inputs, all without interrupting your conscious focus. Meanwhile, it's also processing emotional responses, retrieving memories, making predictions, and scanning for potential threats or opportunities in your environment. This hidden system operates like a sophisticated filtration facility, sifting through an overwhelming flood of information to present your conscious mind with only what it deems relevant or important. Without this filtering mechanism, you'd be paralyzed by sensory overload, unable to focus on anything meaningful. Research in cognitive neuroscience has quantified this processing gap. Your unconscious mind processes approximately 11 million bits of information every second, while your conscious mind handles only about 50 bits. The difference between your conscious and unconscious processing is a magnitude so vast it's difficult to comprehend. Imagine trying to understand the entire internet by looking at a single web page, or attempting to grasp the ecosystem of an entire ocean by examining a single drop of water. That's the scale of the discrepancy between what you're consciously aware of and what your brain is actually processing. Take my friend Sarah, for example. She once decided against hiring a highly qualified job candidate, despite his impressive resume and interview. When asked why, she struggled to articulate her reasoning, saying something felt off. Months later, she realized the candidate had displayed the same subtle dismissive gestures as a former colleague who had created a toxic work environment. Her unconscious had recognized these patterns and influenced her decision long before she could explain why. This massive processing gap creates a situation where the forces shaping your perceptions, emotions, and decisions remain largely invisible to you. Your brain constantly makes connections, forms associations, and draws conclusions without informing your conscious mind. These unconscious processes form the foundation of how you understand yourself and the world around you. Think about your daily interactions with others. When you meet someone new, you might believe you're making a rational assessment based on what they say and do. In reality, your unconscious mind has already evaluated hundreds of subtle cues. Their body language, facial microexpressions, voice tone, similarity to people from your past, and countless other factors, all within the first few seconds of meeting them. Your conscious impression forms atop this foundation of unconscious processing. Furthermore, this hidden architect shapes your memories, often reconstructing them to support your current beliefs rather than accurately preserving what happened. It influences your preferences, creating instant likes and dislikes without conscious deliberation. It even affects your physical reactions, triggering stress responses, or feelings of comfort based on subtle environmental cues you never consciously register. While operating beneath awareness, your unconscious mind isn't primitive or simplistic. It's incredibly sophisticated. It can recognize complex patterns, make nuanced predictions about social interactions, and solve problems through processes we often attribute to intuition or creativity. When a solution suddenly comes to you after stepping away from a problem, it's because your unconscious mind continued working while your conscious attention was elsewhere. The unconscious mind is also remarkably fast compared to conscious thought. Research has shown that your brain makes decisions seconds before you become consciously aware of choosing. In studies where participants were asked to press a button whenever they felt the urge to do so, brain scanning technology detected predictive neural activity up to 7 seconds before participants reported feeling the urge to move. This suggests your brain commits to actions well before you have any conscious awareness of deciding to act. This hidden system doesn't just process information and make decisions. It actively constructs your subjective experience of reality. The colors you perceive, the emotions you feel, the meaning you assign to events, all emerge from unconscious processes that organize and interpret raw sensory data before it reaches awareness. In a very real sense, you don't experience the world directly. You experience your brain's model of the world, assembled largely by unconscious processes. Understanding this hidden architect offers more than just fascinating insights into how your mind works. It can fundamentally transform how you see yourself and others. When you recognize that unconscious processes drive much of human behavior, you gain a new perspective on everything from personal habits to social conflicts. The colleague who rubbed you the wrong way might be triggering unconscious associations you're not aware of. The decision you're absolutely certain about might actually stem from unconscious biases rather than rational analysis. What's truly controlling your everyday decisions? Your unconscious mind processes millions of data points from your environment, your body, and your memories, forming judgments and making choices before your conscious mind believes it's choosing. This hidden system is perpetually active, shaping your reality in ways you typically never notice, creating the illusion that your conscious thoughts are in complete control. The processing power paradox. The hidden system controlling your decisions operates at a scale that defies imagination. If your conscious mind were an old dial-up internet connection, your unconscious would be a quantum supercomputer, processing information at speeds so vast they're difficult to comprehend. The truth is, your awareness captures so little of your brain's actual activity that it's like trying to understand an entire forest by looking at a single leaf. This processing disparity is staggering in real terms. Your visual system alone takes in about 10 million bits of information every second, yet only about 50 bits ever reach consciousness, equivalent to trying to stream a 4K movie through a straw while the rest flows around you unnoticed. This dramatic imbalance explains why you're often surprised by your own reactions and behaviors. Most of what drives you remains entirely hidden from your awareness. Your conscious experience feels seamless and complete, but that's actually an elaborate construction. Right now, as you engage with these words, your body is sensing countless inputs that never reach your awareness. The brain's filtering system ensures only what's immediately relevant breaks through to consciousness, while everything else, the vast majority, is processed silently in the background. Think about what happens when you drive a familiar route. You might arrive at your destination with little memory of the actual journey. Yet somehow you navigated traffic, maintained appropriate speeds, observed traffic signals, and avoided countless potential hazards. Your unconscious mind handled these complex tasks while your conscious attention was elsewhere, perhaps planning dinner or rehashing a conversation from earlier in the day. This automatic processing is essential for your survival. According to neuroscientist David Eagleman, your consciousness is like a tiny stowaway on a transatlantic steamship, taking credit for the journey without acknowledging the massive engineering underway beneath it. What your conscious mind experiences as reality is actually a highly curated highlight reel, presenting only what your unconscious system deems immediately relevant or important. This filtering mechanism evolved for good reason. If you had to consciously process every single piece of sensory information entering your system, you'd be completely overwhelmed within seconds, unable to focus on anything meaningful. Your unconscious serves as an extraordinarily sophisticated information processing system, constantly scanning your environment for anything potentially important. It monitors threats, opportunities, social cues, and patterns based on your past experiences. When something registers as significant according to its evolved and learned criteria, only then does it forward that information to your conscious awareness. Consider the cocktail party effect. Your ability to suddenly tune into someone saying your name across a crowded, noisy room. Your unconscious was monitoring the entire acoustic environment without your awareness, then alerted your conscious mind when it detected something personally relevant. This same vigilance applies to all your senses, creating a 360-degree security system that operates silently in the background of your experience. Your unconscious processing extends far beyond sensory information. It continuously monitors your internal bodily states and initiates adjustments without conscious involvement. It tracks social dynamics, reading facial expressions and body language. It maintains your physical balance, coordinates complex movements, and manages thousands of biological processes simultaneously. The sophisticated nature of this filtering system becomes apparent when you experience sudden expertise without conscious deliberation. When you know exactly what to say in a social situation, execute a perfect athletic move without thinking, or instinctively sense someone's emotional state, you're witnessing your unconscious processing at work, analyzing complex patterns too subtle for your conscious mind to detect. This processing disparity directly impacts your daily decisions in profound ways. Neuroscientist Antonio Damasio's research on patients with damage to emotional processing centers in the brain reveals just how crucial unconscious evaluations are to decision-making. These patients retain their logical reasoning abilities, but lost access to emotional responses that normally guide choices. Despite being intellectually capable, they struggled with even simple decisions like scheduling appointments, often deliberating endlessly over irrelevant details. Without unconscious emotional guidance, the subtle feelings that help us evaluate options quickly, decision-making becomes nearly impossible. What appears to consciousness as intuition or gut feeling is actually the end result of extensive unconscious processing. When you have a sudden insight or aha moment, it typically follows substantial unconscious work on the problem. Your brain doesn't suddenly find the answer. It was working on it all along beneath your awareness, then simply presented the finished solution to consciousness when ready. This processing disparity explains many otherwise puzzling aspects of human experience. Why do solutions often come to us when we stop consciously thinking about problems? Why do we sometimes make choices that contradict our stated values? Why can we instantly recognize a friend's face among thousands, but struggle to describe exactly how we knew it was them? The answer lies in these dual processing systems operating at dramatically different scales and speeds. When you develop expertise in any domain, from playing an instrument to diagnosing medical conditions, what you're really doing is training your unconscious system to detect patterns too complex for conscious analysis. A master chess player doesn't consciously evaluate every possible move sequence. Their unconscious processing instantly recognizes promising configurations based on thousands of previous experiences. This also explains why explaining your own expertise can be surprisingly difficult. A professional athlete may perform incredible feats of coordination, but struggle to articulate exactly how they do it. A seasoned therapist might instantly sense a client's emotional state without being able to point to specific cues they noticed. The unconscious processing that drives expertise operates largely outside the realm accessible to verbal explanation. What makes this processing disparity so crucial to understand is that it fundamentally shapes how you experience and navigate the world. Your conscious mind isn't the CEO making all the decisions. It's more like the press secretary, crafting compelling narratives to explain decisions that were actually made unconsciously. This doesn't mean consciousness isn't important. Rather, it serves specific functions within a much larger cognitive system. The memory mirage. Your conscious mind doesn't just craft narratives to explain your decisions. It's actively rewriting your personal history without your knowledge. That vivid memory you have of your first day of school or your childhood home isn't a faithful recording preserved perfectly in your neural archives. Instead, it's a reconstruction that subtly transforms every time you access it. In this light, what does it mean to trust your memories absolutely when they've been silently changing beneath your awareness all along? Memory operates differently from the permanent archive most of us imagine. Neuroscientists describe memory as fundamentally dynamic and less reliable than our intuition suggests. Your brain stores fragments of sensory information emotional responses, and contextual details across different neural networks, rather than complete packages ready for retrieval like files from a hard drive. When you recall a memory, your brain performs a reconstruction, assembling these distributed elements into what feels like a coherent experience. As neuroscientist Daniela Schiller explains, when you remember something, you're not retrieving a file, you're rebuilding the experience from fragments. This rebuilding process happens seamlessly, causing you to experience the memory as reality without questioning its authenticity. This reconstructive nature creates a vulnerability in your memory system. Each recall places a memory in an unstable state before reconsolidation. Harvard psychologist Daniel Shatter calls this the memory reconsolidation window, when memories become malleable and susceptible to change. During this brief period, new information can incorporate into the original memory, transforming it without your awareness while your confidence in its accuracy remains unwavering. Psychologist Elizabeth Loftus has conducted groundbreaking research demonstrating this phenomenon. Her famous Lost in the Mall study with colleague Jim Cohn gave subjects written descriptions of childhood events supposedly provided by family members. Among real memories was a fabricated story about getting lost in a shopping mall around age 5 and being rescued by an elderly person. Remarkably, about 25% of participants claimed to remember this fictional event, often adding vivid details about their emotions, clothing, or the rescuer's appearance. Loftus found that people frequently express the highest confidence in memories that have been most significantly altered. Consider how this plays out in everyday life. A woman recalls an argument with her sister from 15 years ago, remembering herself as calm and reasonable, while her sister became irrational and aggressive. Her sister remembers the exact opposite scenario. Over years of retelling, each sister has unconsciously emphasized details supporting their perspective while minimizing contradictory elements. Neither is deliberately lying. Both genuinely believe their version represents reality, yet both memories have been thoroughly reconstructed. Your emotional state significantly influences this reconstruction process. Memories formed during heightened emotional states are generally stronger, but not necessarily more accurate. Emotion can narrow attention to central details, while peripheral information gets lost. The weapon focus phenomenon explains why witnesses to armed robberies often vividly remember the weapon, but struggle to describe the perpetrator's face or clothing. Social influence further shapes your memories. When discussing shared experiences with others, their recollections can blend with yours, creating a consensual but potentially inaccurate version of events. Psychologist William Hurst demonstrated this social contagion of memory by showing how people's personal memories of the 9/11 attacks shifted over time to align more closely with collective narratives emerging in media coverage and public discourse. Think of your memory system as constantly editable, but without revision history. Your brain, influenced by subsequent experiences, emotional states, and social interactions, continually modifies memories without leaving traces of these changes. The original version gets overwritten with each new save, yet you remain convinced you're accessing the unaltered original. Childhood memories prove particularly susceptible to revision. Many early memories may actually be constructed from family stories, photographs, or videos rather than direct experience. You might remember your third birthday party with remarkable clarity when you're actually remembering the story of that party as told repeatedly, combined with photographs you've seen. Neurologist Oliver Sacks experienced this himself. He vividly remembered a bomb falling near his home during World War II, recalling the whistling sound, the explosion, and being thrown by the blast. Years later, his brother informed him he hadn't been present during that bombing. He had been away at school. His memory had been constructed from his brother's accounts and his imagination. What's remarkable about memory reconstruction is that it maintains your confidence in its accuracy despite these transformations. Memory researcher Kareem Nader explains this as reconsolidation without awareness. Your brain actively reconstructs memories while simultaneously creating the perception they remain unchanged. You cannot distinguish between an accurate memory and one significantly altered because the feeling of remembering remains identical in both cases. This understanding offers a new perspective on your personal history. Those vivid recollections, forming the foundation of your identity, may be more fluid than imagined. This doesn't mean all memories are unreliable or your entire personal history is fictional. Rather, memory serves a purpose beyond perfect record-keeping. It maintains a coherent sense of self and extracts meaningful patterns from experience, sometimes sacrificing literal accuracy. This view explains many common experiences. Why siblings often have dramatically different memories of shared childhood events. Why eyewitness testimony proves notoriously unreliable despite witnesses' confidence. And why you might suddenly remember additional details after discussing an event with others. The bias blind spot. Beyond the reconstructed memories in your mind lies an even more pervasive filter coloring your perception of reality itself. When you meet someone new, what feels like objective assessment is actually happening through invisible lenses you never consciously chose to wear. These unconscious biases don't announce their presence with fanfare. They quietly shape every interaction, decision, and judgment you make while maintaining the comforting illusion that you're seeing the world as it truly is. Consider the last job interview you conducted or experienced. Research from Harvard Business School reveals that most hiring managers make their decision within the first 10 seconds of meeting a candidate, before any substantive conversation occurs. The remaining interview simply becomes an exercise in confirming that initial impression. Yet these same managers will insist their evaluation process was thorough, fair, and based entirely on qualifications and merit. This illustrates the bias blind spot, our tendency to recognize biases in others while remaining convinced of our own objectivity. Psychologist Emily Pronine at Princeton University demonstrated this phenomenon across numerous studies. Participants readily acknowledged how advertising, propaganda, and social pressure might influence others, while maintaining their own judgments were essentially immune to such forces. Why does this happen? Your brain creates cognitive shortcuts, known as heuristics, to handle the overwhelming amount of information it encounters daily. These mental shortcuts help you navigate complex social environments efficiently.